I spoke to an applicant yesterday who had her first law firm event coming up, and she was absolutely terrified. She was terrified because she didn't know how to walk into a group, what to say, or how to leave without feeling awkward. And she was scared this made her unfit to become a lawyer. Now, the reason I wanted to talk about this today is because this is close to my heart. I found networking hard. It didn't come naturally to me. And in this video, I want to give you the advice I wish someone had given me before my first networking events. Now, 90% of my stress could have been removed if I just internalized this idea that going to a networking event wasn't about impressing or performing. I used to think I was supposed to go and ask really good questions and talk a lot, so much so that I would get noticed. But no, the point of going to an open day or a law firm event is actually for you to learn. I'll give you an example. At one event I attended, I overheard an associate in a US law firm, and he went into loads of detail about how US law firms were doing really well in London because of their capability in high yield bonds. Now, I'd never heard or seen that point online before, but I went home and I researched that point to death, and then I mentioned it in all of my applications to US law firms. Most of them then converted into interviews, and I wasn't even the one to ask the question to the associate. I had just listened. And so I promise you that when a trainee, associate, or partner comes down to help at a law firm event, they're not thinking, is this person asking the best possible question, or are they wowing me with their knowledge of commercial awareness? They actually just want to feel like they're helping you. And the thing they want is for you to seem like you actually have questions you want to ask. So shift your attention away from, okay, I need to perform, I need to impress, to what do I actually want to know? Ironically, this is far more likely to get you noticed. Now, I don't think you should go into any open day or networking event without thinking about what you want to know. Before law firm events, I used to write these detailed fact files about the firm, and I'd write down questions based on what I wanted to know more about. Now, importantly, this isn't about asking rehearsed questions. You want to be present, but your background knowledge, that research that you do, means that you'll be able to ask better questions. So when a trainee comes down to the event, instead of being like, so does the firm do legal tech? You might remember something you've read and say something like, I read the firm has a policy to allow trainees to use AI. I was just wondering, how has that helped you? Now, this can be even more targeted if you find out ahead of time who's going to be there and what the topics of the event are. It's also really important that you ask different questions to graduate recruitment than you do of trainees and that you do of lawyers and partners. So on the screen, you'll see examples. Put simply, you should ask questions relevant to the knowledge level of the person you're speaking to. So you ask questions to graduate recruitment about the recruitment and training and your specific circumstances. Now, if it's a trainee, you can ask them about their personal training contract experience, the work they're doing, why they chose to apply there. And then if it's partners, you have a bit more free reign there. You can talk about the training, strategy, the work they're doing as well. But what you don't want to do is mix categories. So you don't ask partners, do I write my work experience in bullet points or prose in the application form? And you don't ask graduate recruitment about the impact of geopolitics on the firm's international expansion. Lastly, the reflection you do after the event is just as important as actually attending that event. So I'd write down memorable people I spoke to, what I learned, and what it told me about the firm. I promise you that you'll be so glad when it comes to your applications or interviews. Let me tell you how a networking event usually runs. A group of people, usually too many, will hover around a trainee, associate, or partner. And it can be hard to know for your first time, like, how does that work? Do I just walk into the group? Do I say something as I enter? How do I leave? Now, in these environments, it's perfectly fine to just kind of like slide into the space. People will make way for you. And if the speaker is in mid-conversation, just smile and make eye contact. That's it. I promise you that's normal in these situations. Now, if it feels appropriate, you can then wait for a pause and say something like, I'm sorry I missed your introduction. I just joined this conversation. I'm Jason, and maybe I extend my hand. Now, eye contact helps a lot here because it means the speaker will acknowledge you. And remember, that also makes it easier to ask questions. Also, though, you don't have to ask questions. It's perfectly fine to just listen, and you're not a failure if you haven't asked a question. When it comes to leaving a group, you don't need to stay with this one group you started with the whole night. So common practice is to wait for a lull in the conversation and then excuse yourself. You might say something like, thank you so much, shake their hand. Or you can say, thank you, I'm just going to get a drink. Or you could look over to another group, smile, and then just walk over there. Which approach you take really depends on the situation, but just know the stakes of leaving a group will feel a lot higher to you than everyone else. So when you go to a networking event, you'll find trainees, associates, and partners are pretty relaxed and chatty. What's happening there? They've just come down from work. They know they're there to help you. And then if you go up to a partner and you're like, private markets are predicted to account for more than half of global asset management revenues in 2030. What's the impact on private equity firms? Now, they will answer your question, but it will feel very forced. So what you want to do is come in with a sense of professionalism, but also like relaxedness. So if a partner comes in and is joking lightly, it's better to match that energy. Smile, laugh, be in the present moment, rather than going to this bank of rehearsed questions. Now, as I say this, I'm like fully aware that younger Jason would absolutely hate this. I used to be really formal because I just didn't know how to just like chat. And that felt uncomfortable to me. My best advice here is don't worry if you err on the side of being a bit too formal the first few times. And if you get stuck on what to say, just ask a question. People love talking about themselves. If you blank as well, it's also okay to be like, I'm really sorry, I just forgot what I was going to ask. I promise you that law firms are not trying to trick you. They know this is stressful, and being vulnerable will ease that tension. So I remember my first open day, I've talked about this before, but it was Clifford Chance, one of the Magic Circle firms. The environment was just so far from what I was used to. Everyone seemed so well dressed, so polished, and I barely knew which way to walk through the gates by reception. So let me tell you now that the key to making it effortless is to prepare before the day even starts. I'd work out what I was wearing the night before, especially if it's going to be formal attire. I'd also work out how long it takes to get there and be there on time. If you have another commitment and you know you have to be late, you should email the firm and let them know in advance. Personally, I used to go there just a little bit earlier because I found it was easier when the group was a bit smaller to ease myself in. Now, one thing to be aware of, law firms can be hard to find. I remember I went to this coffee shop by the law firm 30 minutes before, and then I left and I just couldn't find the building and I ended up late. So get there earlier than you think, locate the building first if you need to, and that also helps if public transport ends up being delayed. Now, some of this isn't obvious when you arrive. So let me tell you, when you arrive, you usually go to the reception of the building first. Law firms rent floors with other companies. And so when you get there, say hello and then explain, okay, I'm here to meet Reed Smith or CMS or BCLP. Then you'll have to give your name and you'll often be given a name badge. You'll also usually be given a bit of paper to scan through the gates, or there'll be like a security guard there to open the gate up for you. Keep that piece of paper with you as you might need it to come back. Now, the person at reception will then tell you which floor to go to. Just remember which floor. One thing to be aware of as well is if you give your bag and your jacket in the cloak room, actually maybe you want to take out your water or your notepad first. I remember when I was going through the law firm process, I was watching kind of Suits at about the time I had got my training contract offer.
Let me tell you something. This isn't elementary school. This is hard work, long hours, high pressure. I need a grown goddamn man.
And I had this image of what a lawyer was that was super smooth, ultra confident, chatty. And I was like, I'm not that. How could I ever be a lawyer? And what I didn't realize was that the law firm doesn't care about that. They want someone that is interested and motivated and does the tasks well. And while I saw this fear I had of big groups and networking, or I'm being too quiet, as something that held me back, what I didn't realize is that other people didn't see it the same way. And my advice to you is know that you might struggle at first. From seeing how polished everyone is to the stress of, okay, this is my first law firm event, I want it to go really well. But that's not a reflection on whether or not you belong in law. Be prepared and curious, and I promise it will get better every single time.